I was supposed to mostly talk about the Asian Hornet, but I found so many other wonderful things to talk about. That's just going to be a little small part of it. So, enemies on the honeybee. I was looking to do the research on this and what are these enemies that we, besides the small hive beetle and the wax moth, the things that we know and we've talked about, Varroa Destructor, we've all talked about that mite a lot and what we treat for. There is a survey put out by the USDA, the United States Department of Agriculture's Animal and Plant Health Inspection Service every year. They started about, 29, 28, I think it was some of the earlier times I've seen it. And they look at nationwide the honeybee pests. They do a survey. And they have 41 states participate. And so this past year, or the year of July 2014 and June 2015. So during that year, 41 states, and you notice we are absent. We are not one of those states. I don't know why.
We're always on the bottom of the list, that's why.
But L goes in the middle of the alphabet. I don't know why. But, so they had this, the reason why they did this survey though was to verify the absence of any of these exotic pests coming in, things that we do not want in this country, and such as this parasitic mite called Tropolelaps species, the Asian honeybee, Apis cerana, and the slow bee paralysis virus. All three of those were new to me. I didn't know what those three things were, so we'll talk about that in a minute. So this survey, as a result of it, they made these response plans. They're developing them right now so that if these things are introduced into the United States, how are we going to respond? So that was encouraging to me that we're going to be a little bit proactive instead of reactive. A lot of times we're always reactive. And an additional objective, they were going to determine the incidence of known honeybee diseases. So we know about Varroa, we know about Nosema and chalk brood and things like that. So they also, in all these samples they're taking, looking at the percentage of how much is there. And so that gives them a really great baseline. And they can watch this. Are we climbing in this and declining in this? And so it's been good to look at these for over the years. And the whole reason why do we care? I mean, we care because we have bees, but why does everybody care? Well, because bees, pollination is responsible for over $15 billion in added crop value, not just to the crop value, but added crop value. I mean, you know how much almonds cost, but if you don't have the bees to pollinate, you wouldn't get the additional money. So it helps them produce all that much more.
The difference on almonds is 300 pounds to the acre. Without bees and with bees is 3,000 pounds to the acre at $1 a pound.
So as for berries, fruits, like I think about your citrus and vegetables as well. So they estimate there are 250 million honeybee colonies in the United States. It said the almond crop in California alone requires 2 million colonies. And then what Paul said earlier today about this whole thing though, about with the almonds and the apples coinciding and people maybe not being able to take their bees to either one of those crops, could be pretty bad.
My numbers were out of date, I'm sure.
So what are they looking for in this honeybee national pest survey? So in the brood, they sample for this new mite called Tropolelaps species, the Nosema virus, which we talked about, but we don't have that I'm aware of. Is that the one that's extreme?
No.
It turns up into jelly and
it's in the
it isn't right, it isn't, but I don't believe we have ever talked about anybody having it in our hives here.
It's not common.
Right, I think it's uncommon for us in the South anyway. Varroa Destructor, which is that horrible little mite that we all have to deal with, and we treat with the oxalic acid and stuff. We discussed that. And then this bee, Apis cerana, that comes from Asia. The live bees are sampled for all those different viruses. I've never even heard of them. I saw the one that's called Lake Sinai virus. I looked it up. It's because it's Lake Sinai in South Dakota is where it was seen. I was thinking, I don't know, Sinai, somewhere over in Asia or in the Middle East or something. But and then this slow bee paralysis virus. And then all the other things that we talked about, that little deformed wing virus where the little wings don't develop, sac brood stuff, wax moths, small hive beetles. And then they look at they take the wax and they look for known pesticides, 170 of them. And maybe you guys have seen that wax has been shown to have neonicotinoids in it, and that was a big thing. But I mean, it's definitely not at a lethal level, or the bees would all be dead. But what is it to us? I mean, we don't go out there and drink herbicide, because this is an herbicide. It's a pesticide. So how much will it take to be in our bodies if it's in the honey and in the wax? So those are still things unknown. So it's very good that they are sampling for these things. So let's talk about this mite that I never heard of that we're all looking for on this survey. It's native to tropical Asia. It's naturally on the host of the giant honeybee, Apis dorsata. The majority live and reproduce inside the brood. They only live about 3 days on the adult honeybee. So that's kind of different than Varroa, but this is amazing. That's why I bolded it. Within 24 hours of hatching, they start reproducing immediately, and they lay 4 eggs at a time. So in 12 hours, they will they can hatch in only 12 hours, and by 6 days they reach maturity. So they can outnumber and outproduce a Varroa mite just like that. I mean, it's amazing how their sheer numbers is what's so bad about this mite. This is the difference. Varroa is on your left. This new Tropolelaps is on your right. The mouth parts aren't strong enough to penetrate the adult body, the bee body, so it has to attack the brood. And so it has to have a continuous brood cycle in order to keep up its rapid reproduction for it to produce so many. So that mite will die if there is a 3-day break in there. So if you can break the cycle and remove the brood for 3 days out of the hive, you can kill that mite. It would have nothing to live on. Varroa, on the other hand, can live up to 25 days without its host. This mite has to have its brood. It has to have some kind of food for 3 days. So it's transferred from hive to hive by way of one bee leaving a hive and going into another hive. And then I found this very interesting, that the countries where this mite is present, that they know over in Asia and Europe, not Europe, but Asia, for sure, they treat every 2 weeks. Wouldn't that be a pain? And you know what? I just really hope it never gets here, because it will be a pain to have to treat. Okay, the Apis cerana, I'm not sure how to say the cerana part, but it's the Asian honeybee, and it occurs in southern Asia. It's got smaller colonies. It has smaller colonies. About 34,000 bees is what the largest. They do not use propolis for whatever reason, and they don't necessarily like hive boxes either. They like other areas like a log or a mailbox. I saw a lot of that being written about going into other types of hollow spaces. And they don't treat for Varroa for these because they grew up with Varroa, and it has its own way of taking care of it. It grooms and gets rid of Varroa, so it's not a problem. Varroa mite does not kill out these colonies.
So why are we checking for those?
Well, we're checking for the Apis cerana. Okay, so we're checking for this honeybee because behaviorally, you could not tell it from Apis mellifera, which is what we have. It's very docile, it's very gentle, it's somewhat timid, it's well adapted to warmer climates, but it swarms more than our Apis mellifera. Every 2 to 3 weeks, that thing will throw a swarm, that colony will. So you can see how they can quickly outnumber our Apis mellifera. And they are, what is really neat about them too, though, is when they're disturbed, they do this shimmering. They shake their abdomens, and I have a video of this, and they just shimmer. It's like the way they flutter, and they make a hissing sound, and then they will ball around something like an intruder, and they heat it up. They start shimmering and shimmering, and they're going around this and constricting whatever's inside that middle of the ball and heat it up to 118 degrees to kill it. So that's going to come into play in a little bit, why that's a neat thing. But our bees do not do this. They don't heat ball. These guys do. They were shown in the Solomon Islands to outcompete the other honeybee that we have. And I can't call it a native honeybee because the honeybee is not native to the United States. So Apis mellifera was introduced. But this bee, even though it sounds good and all, but it's harder to manage because it swarms so much, and it will outcompete our bees. And then it's not a great pollinator, so you're not going to have such honey produced. And then the other thing I saw is that, like in Australia, they have this bee in there. Now they're worried because it's in there and it's diluting their genetic stuff. They can't say, this is an Italian queen, because it might have made it with one of these guys, and then it's messed up their thing. So they can't sell their queens, they can't sell their nukes anymore, they can't export their bees because they have this bee in there in the mix. And it's not a desirable bee. So far, We don't have it. And then the slow bee paralysis virus, the front two pair of the legs of the adult they're paralyzed right before it dies. The virus is in the head, jaw, and saliva. It's transmitted by the Varroa mite. So we keep the Varroa mite populations down. Hopefully, we keep down this virus. And they maybe contribute this to the destruction, this colony collapse disorder, where things all of a sudden you go back there and your beehive's dead. Like, what happened? They think maybe this virus comes in and that's what part of it. And it's highly virulent, so it's easily transmitted between the bees. But the good news is that they have not found any of those in the United States yet. So we're good so far.
We're working
That's what
on it. We're trying to get them in. Just give us
We're
time. We'll do it.
So what you all been waiting for, and so I'm going to warn you, the images you're about to see are very disturbing. It's kind of like a horror film. I mean, you first see it, it's like, oh my goodness. But this is the Asian giant hornet, Vespa mandarinia. It even looks mean. It's pretty wicked. Huge mandibles. It's about 2 inches in length. The queen is about 3 inches in length. The nests themselves so it's a paper wasp. It's in the Vespa big genera. And they make these huge nests that weigh up to 20 pounds. So you can imagine that on a tree. It would snap it in half, so they put them in the ground. So it's like our yellow jackets that we call yellow jackets. And when you're mowing and they nail you and you don't even know they're there, this kind of things. And they can fly. I've seen 15 and I've seen 30 miles per hour. Either way, they're very fast flyers. So this was a thing on the internet and it just cracked me up. It's the size of your thumb and stings with flesh-dissolving acid that alerts other wasps to sting you until you die. Some of this is...
We need to shut this door back in.
So the flesh-dissolving acid, we'll talk about that in a minute, but the stinging until you die, it's kind of like, other honeybees, when they do sting you, they send out an alarm pheromone and the other bees will come and try to protect what's happening, they'll come over there, but it's not like the Africanized honeybee. Those will all attack you. They're very aggressive. These guys.
You ever saw any of these?
No, sir. We don't have them.
They're not in here.
Right. They're not
I'm gonna
here.
be on the lookout for them.
Right. But this is why we're talking about them, so that if you ever see them, because someone said they saw a dead one in Illinois, of all places.
Well, I don't know, but that one looks bigger than the thumb, unless that's Photoshop. Did that.
It might be the angle and the perspective. Okay. So in England, it arrived last summer, 2016. And so what they have said, this Nicola Spence, she's part of their USDA is their Department of Environment, Food, and Rural Affairs. These hornets pose no greater risk to human health than a bee. Though we recognize the damage they can cause to honeybee colonies, so they are taking swift and robust action to identify and destroy any nest. And so it's a fairly big wasp. I mean, it's scary. It looks horrible. But generally, the bigger they are, the less aggressive they are. So they are no bigger threat to humans than the wasps that we already have. And I did see that a lot, more than they sting you, it'll die, and all this. One sting and you're dead. Oh yeah, I'm sorry, I had a warning. There's an ugly picture here, okay, so just be ready. So this is the acid dissolving sting stuff. So this guy is kind of like I guess it'd be a hemotoxin. It's kind of like the brown recluse bite. It'll eat away your flesh. But not all the way to the bone like a brown recluse would. It just makes a little pit.
What site did you go to get this?
Oh, I tell you.
Is he dead?
No, he's not dead. He's stung. But the stinger can go through, it can penetrate through a rain jacket. So you know how big plastic rain jackets are. So that is a pretty significant stinger. They're unlike honeybees. They can sting repeatedly, like our wasps can. They're not barbed, so they don't... go in and stay in and rip out their guts. They can take it out and inject it back in and sting you multiple times. The venom does break down the flesh, and if say you got hit by 40 stings or so, they say that would be over a teaspoon of their venom in you. That can overload your kidneys. Now if that happened, then you would die. And one man who was stung by one of these, he said it was equivalent to having a hot nail hammered into his flesh. So you wonder, did he have a hot nail hammered into his? I mean, how do you know that? That feels like a hot nail going into my flesh. Whatever. So they say if you're attacked, and I said supposedly because I hope I never am in this situation, but don't move, don't run. Mr. Charlie, if you run, you're going to be nailed. They're going to zing you. So you just stand there, you close your eyes, you close your mouth. I mean, it's not, and try not to breathe because your carbon dioxide probably, It makes them come in, carbon monoxide, or dioxide. And then they say grit your teeth, because I've had it's very nerve-wracking to have them come.
So if you're standing next to that nest and they're nailing your sorry rear end, you're not supposed to move. Is that correct?
Well, that's what they say. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like you're on the nest. I guess if you trip up on the nest and kick it, it's going to be like any of our hornets. But, you know, if you're just walking along and a hornet sees you, but a red wasp sees you, it'll come after you if you get near it. But I just tried, I mean, but what they've done is, I guess when they were by their bees, checking their bees, and there's an Asian hornet inside their bee colony, just don't freak out. Don't run.
It's hard not to run, isn't it?
Exactly. It's very hard, Miss Connie.
Show us how.
So here's another title, a headline on this Wired website. The observed creature of the week was the huge bee decapitating hornet that can't survive group hugs. So it says, look at this little Asian hornet, or Asian giant hornets trying to make friends with some honeybees. Just kidding, they're going to massacre the little things, you know. So they do take those big mandibles and they dehead the beetle. I mean, the bee, just like that. It's pretty sad. I have a video of that too. It's very disturbing. I found it very sad. So look at the difference between the sizes. The our little honeybees just don't have a chance to fight against this big intruder.
Them suckers ever get loose, we in trouble, ain't
Right. So what they do, this native honeybee, that Apis cerana we talked about a while ago, that does that shimmering stuff, that's how they fight back. So they let the hornet comes in, they send out a scout, and it finds a hive, a honeybee hive. And what it wants is the honey and the brood to feed its babies and stuff back at its nest. So one will go in, and the bees recognize it as an intruder, but they all act cool and they let it come in. And then it starts putting down this pheromone so it can leave back a trail. So it's marking and tasting and whatever. And then out on cue, they will attack it and form this frantic ball around it, vibrate, and start raising up the temperature, and they start cooking that hornet to death. These bees can stand up to 115 degrees. This hornet dies at 116 or 17, and so they 108. I'm sorry, they can't do 118. Our bees, they bring it up to 117. And this hornet dies
They
at
bring it up to
116.
121.
Well, I didn't see 100. I saw 118.
Yeah.
And then our bees,
The
117.
balling creates the temperature that the wasp kills the wasp.
Right, kills the wasp, but just 1 degree shy of killing the bee. That's what I saw. So, and then also I kind of like a boa constrictor. And because the way the hornet pumps, doesn't really have a heart, it's pumped through, so when they constrict it, it can't pump its blood, and so it dies that way too. Okay, so this is another headline I thought was just too funny though. In not so awesome news, when you head to the RV park with a family, you may have some not so cool camping guests because these massive killer hornets are killing people. Yes, it's true. First it was testicle-eating fish invading American lakes. Then it was ginormous spider crabs stalking our beaches. Now it's massive killing hornets killing people. There are none in the United States. I don't know. They said that one in Illinois, they think. I think what they saw was a cicada killer. That's what I think they saw.
Well,
So,
there's one, there's some more.
you think so? So here's a guy holding 4. So just to let you see how horrible they are. They are. So I've already called up these videos here, hopefully. Let's see if this works. Alright, so I just don't want to, okay, this one is just showing you how they're coming in. So I don't know where these are, folks. Some island. See them? In Illinois. So he's speaking another language, but to see how the hornets are going in? Okay, so that's all I'm going to show you on that. Alright. So here is National Geographic. Oh, I guess is that one stop?
Oh, football game. There's a hornet now. Well, that's it.
Okay, we're not hearing it. Get this off. This is Apis cerana.
These two are honeybees. They made their hive in a hollow tree. They too are caring for their young. But these are native Japanese honeybees, and they're not quite as defenseless as their European cousins. They have evolved a secret weapon against the giant hornet. One they may need often in this deadly season. This hornet is the advance guard of an attack force the bees could never withstand. But this time, the bees set a trap. They want the hornet inside. And the hornet obliges. The scout's main task is to mark the hive with the telltale pheromone so that her sisters can find it later. But the native honeybees know her game. By swinging their abdomens to and fro, they signal their strategy to one another.
That's that shimmering.
The bees hold off until the last possible moment. And then, as if on one line, they swarm. The hornet is engulfed by hundreds of bees. But they don't sting the intruder. Instead, as revealed by thermal photography, they all begin to vibrate, gradually raising their collective temperature to 117 degrees Fahrenheit. Japanese honeybees can tolerate a temperature of 118 degrees. Their victim's upper limit is 115. The hornet scout is slowly roasted alive. And the secret of the honeybee's location dies with her.
What can we do about it, right? I mean, what shall we do? So there is a Hornet Trap this guy has created.
The Vita ApiShield Trap, invented by Professor Hornets in Greece. It's specifically for control of trapping out hornets and Western European, but it's also very good for trapping wasps. And for robbing bees as well. It fits underneath the body of the hive, and you'll see here, this is the entrance for the bees. They come up here into the actual hive itself. You leave this on the hive so the bees can learn where the entrance is. You'll see at the side there are other entrances, and these are blocked off while the bees are finding their main entrance. These have to be blocked off for 3 days, after which time the bees only go in here. They learn this. Invaders, hornets, wasps, waxwork, robbing bees, they come in here once this is opened. Because this is an easy route in, it's not defended. And of course, they can smell and hear the colony, because this is the only bait that they need to get the colony. They come in because they can smell and hear the bees. But they come in, there are cones here. And this is a drawer, just a physical drawer, where they come in, get stuck, can't get out.
Okay, so they devised this.
Bait, and once you put it.
And so this guy actually shows you when it's live.
I got on this ApiShield Hornet Trap about a few weeks ago now, but I didn't actually open up the side holes here until about 5 days ago. I've checked on a few occasions just to see if they're going in, and it is catching wasps. And there haven't been any robber bees when I last looked. So if you want to come over, what you can do is you open this tray. You open the tray, and you can see there's wasps in there, but there's not actually any bees, which is excellent. It's only catching wasps, and I can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, about 20, most of them which are dead. So it's catching about 4 a day, wasps. And you can see we've got the holes here that are now opened at the side, which are lined to the holes on the
Because I was wondering what keeps them from coming back out. They narrow in so you can't.
and the wasps can only go in, they can't get out. And so far, we are just catching wasps. I can't see any hornets. I can't see any hornets in there. I'm no expert on hornets. I don't think there's any hornets in there.
How do you clean that out? Do they show? It just fills up and keeps getting filled up.
And I don't know if that comes out, maybe it pops in.
Well,
Sure, Walter Stevenhofer can come up with a great design on how to get it and clean it out. So at the Asian Hornet, it's just a matter of time because we don't do the greatest job in keeping out our pests from the United States. It's just very hard to have all our ports and always check everything. So I think it's just a matter of time for these hornets to make their way into the United States. But I think we'll have to just kind of maybe devise different entrances because they're so big, the honeybee's smaller. And so we can give them an area to maybe defend. So maybe using robber screens might be helpful, or some type of base like this where they might think that they can go in here and they get trapped.
well, one thing, if they go in that front entrance, if you have the entrance small enough where the big guy can't get in, that could solve the problem.
That could solve the problem, so they can't get in there to rob them, because our bees won't be able to do the heat balling. So, and 30 of these guys can take out a regular-sized honeybee colony in, they said 3 hours. They decapitate the bee heads until they kill every worker that's coming out, and they go in, find the queen, kill her, and they will just kind of leave a few scouts there as they go back and get their friends, and all of them to come back to come get the honey and rob out the whole hive. Any questions that I could defer to somebody else? Entertain, yeah?
Yeah, very good.
Okay. Was it well worth the wait? I don't know.